Hello, my name is Marco from Foiling Netherlands. As you might know, Starboard is a really important brand when it comes to wind foils and wing foils. And for this year they came up with a complete new system. It's called the Starboard UCS system. And actually what they did, they changed the front wing connection, they changed the back wing connection, and also the Mast Fuselage connection is also new, with a lot of new trimming possibilities. And that's the reason why we organized an online event and asked chief designer and boss from Starboard Foils, Tiesda You, to explain why he did it, what's the reason behind it, and you will learn everything about the trimming possibilities and also the differences between the wing series. Have a nice view to the video and explanation, and feel free to ask me some questions. Okay, see you on the water. Hello, good evening. My name is Marco from Foiling Netherlands, and thank you for watching us. And I would like to introduce you, Tiesda You from Thailand. Thank you first of all staying up so late, because I think in Thailand it's now midnight, 2 o'clock in the early morning. Tiesda, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Marco. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be able to talk about foils. I mean, we were online early and we can talk foils forever. So thanks for the opportunity. This is going to be really exciting. Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, so it will be my task to manage your story a little bit, that we are not talking for hours tonight. Okay, just before we start, this session will be recorded, and afterwards I will make a nice video and put it on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again later as well. And another thing is, for you at home, wind foilers and wing foilers, it's possible to ask questions. Just put the chat, and we also have Tim. Tim is from Foxport, the national distributor of Starboard. He will push some of the questions forward, or he will answer your questions directly. So, of course, we are going to talk about the new foil system from Starboard. It's called UCS. We are going to talk about the collaboration with Martin Fischer, which I think it's very exciting, as one of the best America's Cup foil designers, I think. And we are going to talk about all the different characteristics of the wing series you made. And of course, I think a lot of people are looking forward to the topic about trimming and tuning, because you added another possibility for tuning. So that's it. But first of all, let's start with the basic question, Tiesda. UCS, what is it, and why did you change the system? Because from the early days, 2017, I think you introduced the first wind foil from Starboard. At least the Mast Fuselage connection remained the same, and now you're changing everything. Please tell us why.
I think the UCS started first as it was kind of like a thought exercise. So I love to design. I design foils, and besides the usual requirements of improving wings and working on the collection, just as out of my own interest, I wanted to think, okay, if I could start from scratch, knowing what I know now, and I could go back in time 7 years, 8 years, knowing how foil evolves, how wing foiling came, how racing came, how all the different things, what would I actually design? And so I put it together mainly for myself. And then as I prototyped it and we tested it, a lot of people really liked it. They said, you know, it could really be the connection, because it covers such a big range in a sweet spot that in the end, I think that as a designer, but also as someone who wants the industry to become simpler and better, we could not do it. But I think looking back, let's say 10 years from now, maybe we'll be glad that we did it. And we did it at a time where there's still a chance that the industry could go, consolidate around a certain standard. So I think it's mainly because the UCS system, once you're familiar with it and once you see the little details on how it covers such a wide range from being super simple to being really strong and stiff and adjustable for the guys who need it. Once you see it, I think it makes sense why it's a good time to actually try and say, okay, this could be a really good system, not just for starboard, where we try to cover everything from windsurf to wing foil, racing, freestyle, jumping, everything. And then also, hopefully, a couple of other brands as well. So it becomes a standard. And I'm sure that if we can do it, we will look back to when it started and we'll be glad that that it did.
Yeah. Are there already other brands interested to use your platform? Or
yeah, I think I mean, the way I figured out the way standards work is that you've got different periods in the cycle of a standard. Right now, as of today, there are a couple of, like, I'd say 4 or 5 brands who are interested. They're going to try, they're going to test it. We want to support small brands and big brands as well. It's also a question of timing. Obviously, it's very sensitive when different brands would release it.
Yeah.
I think what would be most interesting is once we have a basis, like 2, 3 brands who are already using it, I think you will get a momentum effect where a lot of consumers will come into the shop and say, you know, like, we would much rather prefer to buy from a brand that is into the system, just because we feel that then we have it's an easy pool. You can switch out parts more easily.
Yeah, I think that's the same with the deep tuttle box and a lot of parts which are already standardized when it comes to windsurfing. So from that point of view, I agree, but a little bit critical because I'm using the UCS as well, and it feels very solid and very stiff. But the competition is going fast, and nowadays we see some systems without any bolts. Did you consider to move a little bit, make a bigger step as well, and try to make it even simpler, or do you think it's not strong enough? Why didn't you do it? Because I think you thought about it, or not?
Yeah, it's a very, very long story. It's not only about should we go for a boltless system or not. Every single detail, again, we're starting from scratch. And so it was a fun challenge, design challenge, to say, okay, what do we do if we can start from scratch? What do we choose to do? If we narrow down to just the bolts or no bolts, screws or no screws, if we are making for a very specific part of the foil market, we could potentially design a boltless system that can work, but it will always be very niche in a way, because a racer, for example, would not be interested in some compromises that a boltless system would have to follow. Perhaps some freestyle guys wouldn't want to either. Perhaps the reliability or the simplicity of how to make it, to understand how to assemble the first time, may not be. So while I think a boltless system can be good, it may not fit the requirement of a universal system. I think we could look at, for example, maybe I don't know, maybe bicycling, for example. You have certain standard on how to fix your sprockets or your steering, and it could be toolless as well. But in the end, it's more important to just agree on what diameter to use, what fits each other, and come up with a standard in that way. So when it comes to the boltless system itself, of course, we've designed and prototyped some boltless systems in different ways. We've seen other brands do it, and it's an exciting challenge. I would bring up the story of the foot straps. I think for every brand, I like to enjoy watching every brand, every designer, including myself. We would work on how to make the foot straps on a windsurfer toolless. It would be great. We all want to do it. Same thing with the fin. And eventually, some people prototype it. Some people even go to the commercialize it. And eventually, we all go back to the good old screw. I don't know if you remember the big system it used to slide as well. I remember back in the 90s, Fanatic had the drop in and turn.
Yeah.
That was great as well. But eventually there's always something that comes up and we all go back to the good old screw and bolt system.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that when it comes to a boltless system, over time, we tend to go back to something reliable and
Yeah. Okay. That's clear. Yeah, actually, we are going quite deep already about the system, but maybe you can explain a little bit more how it works. Maybe you can start with the Mast fuselage connection and then also go to the front and tail wing connection, because it looks quite different than we are used to.
Yeah, the first step was the Mast connection. So our previous system was a socket, and with the socket, there were some advantages and there's some disadvantages. So the thought exercise again is that if I could start from scratch, which system would I use? And I would use the saddle system, mainly because with the saddle system, you have a lot more material in this area here. So that means that you can have more stiffness, you can have carbon fuselage, you can have reduced weight, you can do freestyle things. So I prefer this system mainly because it gives me more material to work with if needed. And also while we're at it, I also went with the 4-bolt system. And the 4-bolt system is mainly to, again, simplify. We all want the mast to really be stiff. If you look on wing foils, on the the top plate, it's
Yes.
got 4 bolts. And there's something about having those 4 bolts, you just know you can crank it and it's not going to move between the board and the mast. So there's something about having 2 bolts side by side like this, which just makes it really reliable and really stiff. We did, of course, prototype single rows, M6 and M8 as well. The single row, no matter what you do, it will always flex a little bit, and you can see this part lift. And so there's no other way than to have the 2 bolts, in my opinion, to have this simple yet reliable setup. The other important thing is that when you're racing in windsurfing, you've got a very long fuselage. The back bolts have a lot of pressure as well.
Yeah.
So if you go with single, the back one has to be an M8, or ideally, and then that means that you have 2 tools, one for M8 and one for M6. So it complicates things as well. So having the 4-bolt system, it really simplified things a lot, reliable and stiff at the same time. There's a little V here, as you can see, and that V, we found that as you load it up, if there's a little bit of tension, we couldn't remove the bolts because of the pressure or the twisting.
Fixating a little bit when you put it on your mast, and it's already a little bit tightened as well without the bolts.
Exactly. And of course, as you tighten it, it compresses a little bit in the V shape. And then the coolest part, the part that I really like the most, is the way the wing systems come on top. Because this one is the one that really caused a lot of headaches, because you want it to be really simple, and at the same time you want it to work from everything from racing to thicker foil sections. And here, the way the structure works is that it's like a saddle system. So you've got this whole thick carbon area where the wing attaches onto the bottom. So that is the same as all the most high performance foils you have. They're all saddle systems. Now the problem with a saddle system is that the moment the wings get thicker, then you start to have a gap at the top because the wing overtakes the fuselage, or you keep the top of the wing here, but then the bottom of the wing will exceed the bottom of the fuselage. And so by having the sleeve cover on top, now you can have as thick as you want, and you will always have a nice, let me find it. Yeah, you will always have a nice leading edge in the front, no matter how thick or thin the wing is. So you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the stiffness and the strength of a saddle system and the clean front end of a sleeve.
Yeah.
So that part was really important in the new setup. And then the hard part is some people also want to adjust, but most people, we just want to be able to put the wings in and just go foiling without thinking. It just has to work out of the box, and there's no time to play around with stuff. So we have the adjustment system, but it's internal. And this part is actually lightly glued on, so that if you don't really want to worry about adjusting it, it just works. It's got the 0-degree shim inside, front and back. And it's only if you're really an advanced racer and you know what you're doing, then you can actually purchase the set of angle shims and change it and fine tune it according to what you want to know. But for 99% of the people, including myself, I just want to make sure that I've got the 0 shim in there and I don't think. I go to the beach, put it in, and off I go, you know. And then finally, the one other part that we try to keep in the system is some people want to be able to adjust the fuselage length. Some people want a bit more maneuverability. Some people want more stability, more upwind power, and so on. So that's why I made the fuselage a little bit extra long with 2 sets of screws. So you can go here, or you can go forwards or backwards 1.5 centimeters, front and back. So there's a little bit of adjustment there. But
yes, I think for these adjustment rings, you can buy, I think, those spaces. Yeah. Okay.
But the key thing is that these adjustments are only there if you're looking for it. So again, the idea is to just simplify it as much as possible, so that everybody who doesn't really want to get too involved in complicated setups and adjustments, the system just works out of the box. And I think when we're opening it up, we talk to the people who are adopting and trying it out, that the idea is that when, as a designer, you will also try to design the parts so that the neutral setting or the most popular settings, it just works on the 0 angle setups.
What about, because I think you also have this hybrid fuselage for people who just spend a lot of money to the old Mast.
Yeah, so Combo, I think we're subsidizing these hybrids so that it's a bit less expensive to switch to the new system. The setup here is the socket, the same socket as you have on the Evo system.
I recognize it.
Yeah, and then you've got the UCS front and back.
Okay, that's great. That's great to hear. Okay, thank you for good introduction. Now, of course, I've seen all the wing series, and on a few of the wing series, there is a set 7,000 times optimization, and you also have the Martin Fischer wings. So I'm really curious. You start working together with him, I think, 1 year or 2 years ago, and you created the front wings for the X15 one design class, and now they came up with some more sizes, and also I think the SLX series has been designed by him as well. Can you give a little bit insight how this works? Did he say, okay, here I know all about foils for the America's Cup, and this is the shape you should choose for wind foiling and wing foiling as well? Or is wind foiling on a board like we do, let's say it in that way, is it different than foiling on a boat? Maybe it's a good point to start with.
I think, well, first of all, I think we met Martin Fischer through Clément Colmas, because they're both from New Caledonia, and we've been working with Clément and his dad Jean-Louis Colmas for such a long time. And so we met Martin Fischer, and he's an incredible human being. He is the kindest, nicest guy, and incredibly smart and intelligent. So we get along really well, and he offered to design some wings using this optimization process. And it's a win-win too, because for him as a foil designer for big boats and small boats, he has a method where the more experience he gains in designing different types, using different parameters, different load characteristics, and so on, of course, he becomes better and better at using his optimizer to create wings based on requirements. And for us, of course, it's fantastic because we can make these incredible new shapes. And now my role has changed somewhat, because I'm no longer a shaper in the sense of a surfer or windsurfer shaper. I'm more of a person who defines what we are looking for different types of wing families.
Okay. So actually, the briefing, I'm really interested in this. The briefing could be, okay, make a great front wing for wind foil and wing foil racing, for up and downwind. That's kind of brief, and then the software is doing the rest, or does it require some basic design first, or some insights? What other brands are doing with in the wind foiling and wing foiling scene, or how does it start?
I think it starts by the first thing is we need to understand that what this thing does is that it optimizes a shape based on your requirement. So, for example, in a perfect world, theoretically speaking, if we know your weight, we know your the temperature of the water you're going in, the location, the wind strength, and in some cases, let's say we wanted to win an event, we would look at the what do you call it? The meteorological statistics of that area during the time period of the race to figure out what is the probability of the wind strength. We would look at the structural limitations, what carbon we would use, manufacturing limitations as well. So, and then you would design what a computer would say is the optimum foil shape for those conditions. And of course, in the perfect theory, you got the perfect wing for that one particular rider. So, it's going to be hard, but at some point, then my job would be to choose which parameters for, the SLX, which ones for the MF, and so on. So, for example, right now we're working with Mast, who's our main downwind rider, and he did really well. He won the Crozon Festival. I think him and Benoit. So everybody was really excited about it, and now we've got this some new ones. I'll show you quickly. It's just because I'm. This is a new 640, so that's Clément is going to be using this at the moment. It's just that like we just keep putting in. So his parameters are very different to the SLX parameters, for example. So I tried, and the more we learn, the more we understand what parameters we need to use, and to get better and better at making the best possible for each category. So this is. And then, of course, there are some categories that are easier than others. For example, racing, upwind, downwind is probably the easiest. And freestyle is probably the hardest, maybe, in my imagination, because it's hard to quantify what you're looking for in freestyle, for example, or waves. Waves is also more subjective. It's like, if you look at surfboards, it's very artistic in a way. So it's harder to define, to optimize a wave foil, and it's more appropriate for racing. But of course, as we get better and better, I think that the principle of optimizing, it applies to every wing, whether it's a wing for an airplane or a wing for a foil and so on. The general thing that I'm excited about is I'm starting to understand that the old way of me designing boards or foils, it's not going to work anymore. I had that moment when I tried Martin's wing the first time. I was like, you have to imagine, I was so excited on one thing because it felt so amazing, and at the same time I felt that I was losing my job because no one needs a shaper anymore. I don't stand a chance. I would not come up with this wing shape after shaping for 10 years, So I called up Martin. I'm like, I love your wings. It's absolutely amazing, but I'm a little bit sad at the same time. And he says, no, don't be sad. Your job has just changed. Now you're just going to help me understand what we are looking for. We'll work together on the parameters and just let the computer do its job of making the best possible.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds amazing. Yeah, it's the same as artificial intelligence. I think will change our work, and for you it changes as well.
A little bit, yeah. But I think it's very important to make sure that we understand the optimizer it's not AI. It's even though everyone would like to imagine that it is, because it's a trendy thing to talk about today. But this is an optimizer is very, very different thing from learning. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I was really curious how that works. Another thing I'm really curious is the Starboard has so many wing series nowadays, starting from the quite round and low aspect S-type to the very, very extreme Martin Fischer, which I think is the most extreme in the range. Can we go through all the wing series and that you explain shortly what the characteristics are and if it's good for wind foiling and or wing foiling? I think that will help people to choose for which wing series they should go. Let's start with the S-type, maybe the easiest one.
Yeah, I think starting with the S-type, I think we can also put it in the context of aspect ratios, maybe. That is, it's a pretty good baseline, I guess. So the S-type are the lowest aspect ratios, and then the SLX and MF are the highest aspect ratios. And there's a loose correlation between technically most extreme to the technically easiest when it goes from low to high aspect. So we could look at it that way, even though, of course, when you look at wave and freestyle, medium to low aspect is also a good thing. So, but the S-types, that's the lowest aspect ratio. I would say it's stability, ease of use, and maneuverability. So, yeah, I think S-type is in a nutshell, we could say it's our easiest foil.
Okay, and that will work both for wind foiling and wing foiling, I think.
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Across the range, the idea is that the wings, it works for any foil sport, if you like. You just have to understand what you're looking for within your sport. Windsurfing or beginner in wing foil, or if you want to race, it doesn't actually matter which discipline you're doing. You choose based on the characteristic of the wing.
Yeah. Okay. So the S-type is really for the starters and also for people don't hassle too much, just easy riding. Then the S-type is their friend. Am I right? Yeah. Okay.
Super
great.
Easy. How can we make foiling as easy as possible? Go for the S-type. E-types are now medium aspect. The E-type it's a morphing range. So the smallest ones are our best wave maneuverable foils. And the biggest one, just by the nature of scaling up, if you like, the small wave wings, you end up with a very nice, easy progression wing as well.
Yeah. And when you say the biggest one, starting from what size?
I would say the 1400, 1800. The 1100 is it's a sliding scale, if you like. The 900, people really use it in the waves. The 1100 would be great in the waves for larger foilers, and it would be a great easy foil for lighter riders. So the 1100 is in a mix of everything.
Yeah.
In theory, all the wings are very similar in terms of characteristic. It's just that it would be strange to take the 1800 into waves, for example, just because it's quite big.
Yeah.
However, if you're wake surfing, for example, or wake foiling, then the 1100 or the 1400 is great for baby waves as well. So I think the E-types, mid aspect, maneuverable, and it's a good all round for a bit of speed, a bit of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, all around free ride dish, so to say. I think smaller sizes also good for the waves. I think that's a good summary for that. And then we have the E-type Pro. I used them both, and for me they're completely different feel. The E-type Pro is really fast and yeah, free race kindish. And
yeah, the E-type Pro is much faster than the E-types. They have a slightly higher aspect ratio again. They were born mainly from freestyling. So they
Okay.
wanted something fast, something that wanted to pop well, especially windsurf freestyling. So we have Lennart and Steven who want a very specific wing, and that was how the E-Type Pros were born. And as a general wing, not only for windsurf freestyle, their characteristic is that they're maneuverable, they're fast, they're just more technical to ride than the E-Type. When it comes to waves, I would still go for the E-Type more than the E-Type Pro, just because the E-Type has this a more constant lift and better maneuverability, so suited to waves.
Okay, great. And then the next one, it's the glider, I think. Yes, it's a glider, definitely.
Yeah, the glider is probably our most popular wing range. Together with the E-Type is close, because so the E-Type and the glider, the interesting part is that they're actually identical in terms of their designs, the way they work. The only difference is the aspect ratio.
Okay.
And so the aspect ratio of the glider is much higher than the E-Type. And so what you get is that you get much better earlier takeoff. It's better at pumping. It feels like it's got less drag, a little bit more glide, if you like. But of course, what you lose is then the maneuverability, because the span is much wider. So then when you go towards the largest gliders, now that becomes relatively specific, because the Glider 2000, I think that you see there, it's 1.4 meters wide. So that becomes very specific, more for dock starts, pump foiling for 2 hours, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I occasionally, for fun, take the Glider 2000 out wing foiling, but it's so big. It's great. The bigger gliders, it's been very popular for beginner downwind foiling. So that's what I'm using to practice to take off. And once you get better, of course, you want something faster. So then you would go to the Glider Pros or ultimately the MFs.
All right, great. One question, because in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, we have a lot of lakes, sorry, quite flat water. What do you think, the E-Type versus glider? What do you think, what do you recommend? Let's ask it in that way.
I think it depends on the style of riding. So for example, I don't know what is the popular riding style in Holland in terms of what people enjoy doing. So let's say, for example, in Thailand, the winds are quite light and there are no waves. So the trend of what people ride in Thailand is not very maneuverable. No one's jumping, no one's riding waves. Everyone is gravitating towards more high aspect wings, just because it feels nice when you're in lighter wind conditions. So I don't know if in Holland, for example, I go to some spots like Tarifa, or in France, or in the UK, where there's more of the mid aspect wings are more trendy, because it's windy usually in that location. And so you just want to go fast and do some jumps and transitions in the air. And riding is more suitable for mid aspects. So in Holland, it depends on what style of riding you're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one, the Glider Pro, then.
The Glider Pro it's a free race wing. It's probably the one that I used the most before I got this new MF, which I'm in love with right now. But the Glider Pro it just feels fast, and yet you can still carve and turn. So it's a very nice all-round wing for those who are looking for more speed and performance as well.
Yeah, I used it. It's not my friend, but it's of course a personal thing. It feels much more technical than compared to the glider. Am I right? The maneuverability is more indirect.
Yeah, the glider is relatively easy, and the Glider Pro feels a lot more technical. Of course, the upside is that when I use a Glider Pro, I feel fast. I feel like it's satisfying in that sense. So I think it's probably because I've been using these SLXs and these super high aspect ones. They feel so slippery in the water, almost like you're on ice.
Yeah.
And so once you're used to it, it's hard to go back to profiles that don't give you that sensation.
Yeah. Okay, clear. Then let's move on. Then I think we landed at the Martin Fischer series.
Yep. You've got
I think it started.
You've got the MF and the SLX.
Yeah.
So
I think when you look to those, I've got them here. It's hard to see the Martin Fischer and the SLX 865. So incredibly big. In basic, they really look the same. And I think you can explain that they are really different or not.
They're very, very, very different. Yes.
Yeah.
The MF was optimized for a lower wind range. So, for example, that's why they work so well for downwinding, because in downwind you would go up to maybe 21, 22 knots, 25 max in top speed, and so you'll see that with the MF, you probably struggle to go over 30 knots, for example. I think some people can, but you can tell that it's so slippery from takeoff to up to maybe 27 knots, I would say. It's just, you can tell it's optimized for that range. I love it for wing foiling because I'm not that fast, and I feel like I enjoy its wind range condition. Clément loves it for downwinding because that's also the speed range, the takeoff to the top speed. And then if you look at the SLX, it goes much, much faster. So when, for example, Clément uses the SLX for downwinding, he doesn't enjoy it very much, and he's not going at over 30 knots, so he's not utilizing that ability of the SLX, and we've sacrificed, or let's say the optimizer has sacrificed some of the efficiency in the lower end. Physically, if you look at the wings, I mean, the idea that Martin has been explaining or trying to get me to understand is that we don't look at the way the wing looks anymore. We can look at it just because it's nice to look at it, just like we look at whether a board is blue or red, but we just have to understand that this shape is just a result of what we told the computer we need. And yes, we can say that, I noticed that the SLX has the concave on the bottom and not on the top. The MF has the concave on the top and it's flatter on the bottom. It looks thicker. At the end of the day, it's simply, he says that we need to move from a world where we look at the geometric parameters, what we see and touch and feel, to we just look at the performance parameters that we input.
Yeah.
And so it's a mind shift that we need to get used to.
Yeah.
At least of designers.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you for this so far. Just have a look if there are some questions. I don't see any questions, so that might be completely clear. And then the next topic, which I think it's really important for a lot of people, all about tuning. Of course, we are adjusting the mast rake. Actually, you are adjusting the rake of the wing set compared to the bottom of the board. We can adjust the angle of the back wing, and you thought, okay, maybe it's also a good idea to make the front wing adjustable as well. And of course, I really have a notebook with me because I like to tune and try things as well. And I really know that it's very complicated now because you have so many parameters. And of course, I will take off the standard shim and experiment with the other shims. That's what I like to do. But can you explain very specifically what the impact is of changing the angle of the front wing?
Just before I come to that, on the subject of adjustment, okay, side note, you're lucky that I didn't, at one point I wanted to make this part adjustable as well, where you can put a shim and change the angle of fuselage. So then you would have a lot of fun there.
Okay.
So It's adjustable, front wing adjustable, tail wing adjustable. Like you said, you can adjust on the board side as well. We can have the collars to move the front wing forwards, backwards.
Yeah.
But again, I really want to emphasize that for most people, including myself, and for people who want it, you don't have to adjust anything. So if you don't want the headache, just go with how it is out of the box, and it just works. When it comes to your question about the front wing angle, the front wing angle, I would recommend it's the last thing you would ever want to adjust. The connection with the board adjusts the angle at which the air flows around the board, and also the touchdown angle that you prefer. The main thing we need to understand is that no matter what, when you're foiling, the front wing will travel at the angle that it wants to go at to balance the forces, if you like. And so that front wing angle is completely fixed. It's our reference point. So when you change the front wing angle, what you're really doing is you're actually just changing your fuselage angle through the water. And so you want to have the fuselage going through the water perfectly parallel for when the wing is at the angle that it wants. So that's really the main purpose for being able to adjust. Normally, it's already optimum. It's just in some cases where perhaps you've run out of room to increase you want more delta between your front wing and tail wing, and you've run out of room here, you can go for the front wing. Sometimes you can feel that the nose is too low, and so you can adjust the front wing in to you would increase the thickness of the shim here to make the nose of the board higher.
Yeah.
But the front wing is really the last resort, 99.99%. Just keep it at zero.
Okay, that's a good point. I was already thinking, but I was not able to measure it. I was also thinking, okay, the front wing is so dominant when it goes to the water, so and the forces are so big, so it must be horizontal, or as it may go through the water, and will have an impact on your board angle and the rest of the foil. Thank you for. Then I can sleep tonight really well. Now I know that. You added another thing, at least for wind foiling is new. The Quick Lock 2 system already had those spacers to increase the length of the fuselage. Maybe you can talk us through what it will bring when you put the backside spacer on it and the front side spacers. What is the impact using those spacers?
Adding the back spacer increases stability. It makes driving, tacking easier because the foil is less pitch sensitive. You will get you have a little bit more control as well, because it calms down the foil a little bit. If you add the front one, you will increase the power of the foil, if you like, and it'll be better at going upwind. It's a little bit like moving your putting a dagger board down, suddenly it goes upwind a bit more. Putting both of them in means you have the biggest wing base, which means you have the maximum stability and also the maximum power. If you take it all away, you get it shorter, and so you have a much more maneuverable foil. If you're pumping, it pumps a lot at a much faster cadence than when it's wider. So in wing foiling, it's more, a lot of people have their own preference if they want shorter or longer. And in windsurfing, it's more, usually you add it to get more upwind power or quicker takeoff in the front.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for that. I don't see any questions, so I think everything is clear. Yeah, and of course we are the last topic is, of course, can you give us a sneak preview? What are you working on? What will be the next thing for next year, or maybe over 2 years?
Oh, I think there's a lot of things. Obviously, I want to extend the optimizing process to more wings, but we have limited capacity. So on one hand, we want to continue to optimize our racing equipment. On the other hand, I would love to optimize the S-type, the big S-type, for example, so that a beginner can have the most easy foil, but at the same time, we know it's the best possible foil we can make in terms of lift drag ratio at that particular level. So I'd love to work more on with Martin to optimize more. Obviously, we want to keep our racing development at the cutting edge. So we want to continue to work on new wings or new masts and so on. Here, for example, this is actually the titanium fuselage that is going to be very soon. So it's extremely stiff. We also have, I don't know if you are familiar with the cadence of what we develop, but typically once all the racing foils are done, some of our best foils, we fuse it into a monoblock foil, and it's called the Team Series.
Okay.
And so I'm working on the Team Series, which will hopefully be our flagship racing foil, for example. And then there's a lot of, what's exciting is that behind the scenes, we have a lot of technological, structural development as well in terms of different types of carbons or ways to manufacture foils to try and improve things.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So actually, I think a lot of people are happy because when you're telling me this, I think you will continue with this system and no changes anymore, because that's sometimes I hear from customers. They say, okay, Starboard is changing too much. You can argue about it if that's true or not, because when you're not innovating, then you will lose the game as well. But would be great if we can guarantee to our customers, okay, Starboard is going on for the coming years, and of course expanding the range. Great. Yes, I think I know quite a lot of already. Thank you very much. Do you want to say something else? Did we miss some points in your opinion?
No, I think it's been great. I think that just to wrap up on where we started, which is with the UCS system, is that I just had a meeting with Spain earlier today, and I said that what we're essentially doing is we're making a promise to the market that with UCS, I would love to see 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we haven't changed it because it works, and it's like the Tuttle box or the US box. I'm hoping that it will become that kind of standard where 20 years from now, 30 years from now, it's a universal standard for how foils fit together.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the only system, because there will always be systems that can be better in niche parts, but it would be great if we had one common standard for most foils.
Yeah, okay. So everything will change, but I don't think the IQ foil and the X15 foil will change. That will remain the same, or?
No, that has to remain the same. So we put it in those systems in a different sandbox, so that it's clear that those are one design foils that don't change for, I don't know how long they need to stay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Tiesda, thank you very much for your time and staying up so long. And
yes,
everybody at home, thank you for watching as well. Afterwards, we will make a video of this live event, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel, so you can see it over and over again, and ask me those questions. I'm trying all the gear, as many as possible setups, and we also have some demo equipment available. So when you want to try one of the new UCS foils or have some advice, please let me know. And again, thank you very much, Tiesda, and you can go to your bed now.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.